Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 8. Well, just to give you a little bit of behind the scenes here, after making the last two episodes of this series, I decided to leave this game on all night long so that even while I was doing the makes it take longer, but doing the compression of the videos and then later uploading the videos and things that I have happen while I'm asleep, so that when I started again before I gonna go back and make Hearts of Iron 4 episodes, we have a continuous excuse me time here. And why am I saying this, and why is this at all important? Well, there's a lot of timers on things. The worst time you can end a Black Ice playthrough is on the monthly saves, the auto saves. That is the worst time, because that's when the beginning of the month it sort of like goes, oh, what kind of things are going to affect me for the next coming month? Now, I know there's some other meantime to happen coding stuff that I really haven't gotten into, that some of the better coders have done that may be able to keep it from doing that. But normally, you know, so meaning that if the conditions are met halfway through the month, they will happen then, as opposed to the conditions need to be met at the beginning of the month plus the date time after that kind of thing. I know it's sort of complicated, but so there's that. That is sort of the worst thing, because so it sort of checks what's likely to be happening, shall we say, this coming month. But if you start it from that save, it hasn't sort of gone through that process, because it saves before that. But when it starts, it doesn't go through the month rollover thing. That's part of it. But obviously this is November 10th, so we don't have that issue. But there are other issues. Oh, we've got way too many spies. So got to deal with that. Okay. One thing I don't pay that much attention to. The other thing here is there's timers in the game, and let's say, oh, set this flag and for say 60 days. Okay, well, and this is a Hearts of Iron 3 engine problem, not a Black Ice problem. Black Ice uses it more so than the standard Hearts of Iron, so it shows up more often. Is those timers can be reset, I think maybe again more likely if it's from a monthly save, you know, the autosave versus others, but they can be reset at other times. So there's a lot of cooldown stuff that Black Ice uses for like yearly things to happen, so they can be reset so that things and keep getting reset, so they never fire. Can. I'm not saying will or even likely, but can happen. So don't take this as you can never turn your computer off. No, don't take this as Black Ice is broken because of it. No, it's just something that we as in the community and modders and whatever have observed with some players sometimes happening. So some of these year down cooldowns may end up taking a year and a half or something for that to fully work. It just happens now. So, and this is why a bunch of events often sometimes happen all at once, boom, 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 right after the first of the month or something, because when I'm making these, this fills up my hard drive. I can right now only make, and I got a couple terabyte hard drive, but I got lots and lots of stuff on it, and games and lots of stuff, but and then I also have I think it's a 4 terabyte external hard drive that, because it's external, you can't record and place this fast. So I move my old, after I compress them, move my old segments down. But understand that this could easily be one of these episodes that I make that goes over an hour. Can be 100 plus gigabytes before I run the compression on it. So don't think, oh, that Gamer's system is so full, got to clear everything off. No, it's, you know, having a comfortable more than 200 gigabytes free on one drive to record stuff on and feel comfortable with, and not go, oops, I ran out of space, and so the mission, you know, the episode ended too soon. So so I'm often making an episode, and because like now I talk a lot, so the clock isn't necessarily rolling along as well, even when I am letting the clock roll along. So it can be, you know, 3 episodes in a month, and that's could be 3 stops and starts of you know, Hearts of Iron 3. So which messes with timers even worse, which probably most of you are playing for more than a month in one session, is what I'm saying. I you know, I know a lot of people are watching this that play this and to learn things, how to do things, how not to do things. I am not in any way saying that I'm the best, you know, how to defeat Yugoslavia in 3 easy days. No, I'm not. This isn't that tutorial, but this may be how not to defeat Yugoslavia, because I take twice as long, like we did up here, or much longer than twice for Denmark, without going through the decision to defeat it. And also, I know a bunch of these creates things will disappear at, because I've had things like this happen before, at the end of 1940. So I've got to defeat Greece fast. Obviously, talking now only slows up the video, not the clock there. But so we got to get Greece down, or I've just got to accept that a bunch of these armored divisions are likely to disappear back into the pool. So, you know, if you very well may be able to play for many hours in a session that goes through many months, and so some of the issues that I have, you won't be having. But just as sort of a warning. But it does, you know, hey, if you get through 6 months in a session, sure, that's great, but it still can be an issue. And I figure that's part of the reason you want to watch me, is so that you get some of that sort of technical information and advice. And this is one of the things that I will say I have not seen much of a situation like that with Hearts of Iron 4, and is sort of, okay, we lost the 12th. You were losing these, but they're going to, manpower theoretically later gets shifted into other Waffen-SS units. Better actual Waffen-SS units, not just Totenkopf garrison. We needed to garrison units, which are useful for suppressing partisans, very much so, but I would rather have some cool kick-ass divisions. Okay, first off, let's see what we can do for all of the spies that we have here. Well, okay, let's see if we can do some tech espionage here with the US and the Soviet Union. Let's disrupt national unity a little bit with the Soviet Union. Get that going, because that's obviously an eventual target, and having that done. You can do things like that to France or other countries, but quite honestly, since I mostly just roll over France anyways, I'd rather do the leadership to text. You know, and you can do that to any of these countries, just national unity or whatever, which will make them easier to defeat. You know, you can also do covert operations, which can be cool too. Right now, disrupting British national unity, I don't really, or the US, I don't see as overly useful, and so most of the other stuff we can just roll over, and because we just have over 100 plus, I don't think we've lost the excess. It just doesn't display more than 2 digits and a plus sign, but that sort of shows me that we have a lot. Now let's look at technology. Ooh, yeah, see, I don't, that's big. Diplomacy, we're we're not even doing 1. We're doing 1/3 of 1. So that, even if that continues to build up, that's fine. Whether I decide to use it, obviously we can move the sliders, so you may think of it as a waste, but not even 1 full point, so I don't see that as a problem. Because we are hopefully going to use those usefully, let's go down to 8 and see how that goes. I'm try to pay attention to that number. Okay, and I really didn't want to move all of that into officers, because we're doing, oh no, we're not doing as well as I thought we were. We have been having, and this is obviously combination of loss for officers and growth in numbers of divisions, including events that pull officers out of the pool. So we want to get that back up to 110. So yes, we do want those over to officers and not research. My other, the alt version of this series where we're invading the Soviet Union, I massively reduced research to focus on officers to keep them over 100%, because it has been needed there. Okay, see, already, boom. That's sort of remarkable that it's happened that fast, but American blueprints are stolen. We have stolen the plans to let us improve our abilities in airborne unit training to level 4. Well, great, which I guess means we stole the training manuals, but yeah. So I've often wondered whether, so just up 1, but still, up 1 is cool. How do you steal doctrines? Well, I thought training manuals would work. This is maybe not allowing tech stealing of doctrines, but I think manuals can work. Hitler orders Directive 18. Hitler's Directive number 18 was issued on the 12th of November, 1940. It mainly concurred eventual future of German participation in the support of the Italian operations in and around the Mediterranean. Hitlerite directives were a mixture of general information, warning of eventual future actions, and orders for planning and preparation. Hitler had ordered his Directive 18 inter alia that a panzer division be prepared to move to North Africa. However, it was cancelled after the Italians advanced into Egypt in Operation excuse me, let's see, Operation Zoni E? Was that Italian for Operation E, I presume? Okay, we're going to order that. Hopefully this is not cancelled, because I'd like to send a panzer division down to the Italians. Okay, and Vichy, France. Yes, you may have energy, Vichy. Yes. Attack. Just follow on in case they don't immediately start collapsing. We come across the mountains, make sure everywhere gets occupied if needed. Okay, looks like we just won the Battle of Athens, of course. Okay, you guys attack. Attack. You just lost any of your supply links because they could have been running around the Peloponnesians, or theoretically through the Corinth Canal, but okay. Oh, this is cool. And we've just, looks like we've annexed fully Greece. We conquered Greece, okay. Again, as I say, cool. We're going to do in a better state, completely owning Greece. I think there may be some events happening that may affect things, but may change the status. But again, I say, I really think it should be occupation. I think that annexation and just Yes, Greece sort of had a German king, but wasn't really a German country. This isn't EU. Okay, this is sort of cool. Uh, I think it was the Roman ruler who sent me the link to this video on YouTube, and which I then made the video or the event out of it, and why I really wanted to be able to do animated GIFs for these. I poked them and poked them and poked them. I don't know what their reluctance is. Maybe their reluctance, quite honestly, maybe that they're worried about being overshadowed. Because I could put together some quick animated GIFs here of this parade. Okay. Victory over our great enemy of the Great War. France is defeated. We should hold a parade in Berlin to celebrate and honor the troops of our great army. Yeah, I sort of wrote that. We're going to have some BDM girls there to welcome the troops home. Okay. And this is all sort of taken from these photos. That's obviously the Brandenburg Gates, whatever big Strasse Street there in Berlin. And these are sort of the generals there, the troops marching by, and these are the BDM girls right there. So we can do the victory, or we can, a victory, or we can go through and watch the parade. Notice you get a little more national unity if you decide to go through all of my events, because I want to show off my images. So show off my great work. Presiding over the parade is General Oberst Frederick Fromm, Chief der Heers Aslingen, und Eisenherr. Of course, Fromm, if he's around, he should be in charge of this. Isn't this basically what the Eisenherr's Ober? Maybe not. I don't know. But something like that. General der Panzer Hermann Papa Hoth. Sort of have the. There you go. That I believe is Papa Hoth. I think that is from there. And Gross Gauleiter of Berlin, Greater Gauleiter of Berlin, of that, and Reich Minister Dr. Goebbels, the guy in the middle, the short guy in the middle, presides over the parade. And you can see this parade. It's hugely wide. They sort of have to meander, even though the troops are marching. They have to sort of move in and around various elements in the street, and the crowds that are pushing in. This is a massive, huge. You can just see it going, and this is just, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of people. In the high tens of thousands at least, if you look at the film footage of it. So gain a little bit more popularity here if you go through this. And so you can see again, they're marching in the center. The crowds are on either side, and you can see that they sort of have to stream in and around these elements. Cavalry. I have to wonder how many of the troops that were in the parade were actually part of, because this should have probably fired much sooner, because it was shortly after the victory in the West. The overflowing crowds filled the streets, welcoming the soldiers with flowers. And you can tell that this isn't just some, everybody has to leave work to go to this. I'm sure they instructed people that if you want off work, you can go to it. Or, if you want off work, you can get off work. It was jubilant crowds. This wasn't any stage managed, gotta be happy for the cameras thing. The people were ecstatic in this crowd, and this was no Hitlerite speech. The people were there. They were just celebrating the victory and celebrating the soldiers. And that's what it was. And I'm sure if you wanted to stay home, no one would have noticed, because there were just way too many. Notice this. I was sort of waiting for this. Our descent has gone down. That's why I hadn't been putting more into consumer goods, because I knew that this event was coming, but I hadn't played with this event before, because it was newer than the last series of this. So you can be a bit more prepared. Go to minimum needed. And we also have more leadership there. So that is, and I've talked about it in earlier episodes recently, that is where Hitler really cements his, I don't know, I was just watching a documentary the other night, sort of godhood, that Hitler was thinking that he was some sort of parallel to some Egyptian pharaoh. I have to look into that a little bit more. But where he really cements his unquestioned leadership, I think, would be a reasonably good description. Combination of the people, the army. And as I've talked also about before, Hitler really finally starts feeling secure against the army once he can introduce conscription in it, because it goes from being a, if you will, professional army to being a mass army, and he believes, and to some degree it's true, and as time goes on it's more so true, that the masses are behind him. So long as, and I've talked about this, so long as he doesn't get too far out in front of him. He has his ideology, he has his National Socialist agenda, and he functionally never wavers from that agenda. Yeah, is it just the one? Yeah. Never wavers for it. But he constantly, and I do mean constantly, backs off of that agenda, in the sense that either in a particular gal where there's a lot of pushback, or where he directly or indirectly allows a particular gal leader to push the National Socialist agenda a bit further than in other areas, be the one, and if it gets pushed back, protests, upset from the people or whatever, he'll sort of come in, oh, no, he was taking, whoever gal leader was taking things too far. He still has my confidence, but he just needs to be a little more sensitive to the people's needs and requirements, and just, he was being over enthusiastic on the issues or whatever, so it wasn't like the guy was getting really in trouble, but Hitler was solving the disputes kind of thing, and, coming in looking like the good guy. And so sure, he would backtrack from his agenda in implementing it, but in my understanding is that he never wavers, and this is, of course, there is going mad at the end, insane. And I mean, people say in this documentary, well, he was always insane or whatever. Well, he always had mad ideas, in the sense, but and he definitely, however you want to put it, would come under the effects of megalomania. But he also, more so at the end, gets divorced from reality. That there you can have like an insane idea, like, oh, I don't know, communism. That I think is an insane idea. Oh, but it's an idealistic. No. If I'm a better YouTuber than everybody else, and obviously I'm not, but if I am, some guys that are on the top, I just think that, I mean, not that they're bad, but they're on the top because they were lucky and early and got in and got popularity, so they, they're really super well off. And I'm not saying they don't have talent. They have talent, but there's thousands of other people that have equal talent but weren't in at the beginning and didn't quite get the lucky breaks, and but I'm not even up on these upper echelons. But if I happen to be get lucky or have super talent or whatever from YouTube and make 10 times as much as any other YouTuber or something, I want all that to be kept. Now, if I want to voluntarily give it to the poor or give it to just somebody who's in need or whatever it is, then that's up to me, not the government, not the state. And if I want a bigger house than somebody else and somebody else to live in in a one-room apartment, fine. Now that's different than starving, and that's why I can say I want a social safety net. I'm not an extreme capitalist where extreme libertarian who, any government taxes is theft, and we, can't do that, and and no, I'm not that either. But I think communism as even a, because I know I've talked to a few of you are idealistically communistic in a particular way. And okay, you don't want to kill millions of people, and I agree. You aren't one of these evil haters that want to, butcher the rich. There are evil haters that want to butcher the rich, and they're not just all poor people living in Africa or wherever. There are, even in well-to-do Western society, and some of them do come from that rich thing. They want to butcher the rich. They want to have that revolution and do a sort of a Bolshevik-style revolution. There are those people, and those people, I quite honestly, even if you're one of them, I have no use for you. Okay, if you want to butcher people to achieve your communistic goals, I have no time for you. But I do understand that there are idealistic people who believe that that humanity's mindset will change and will develop in this idealistic communist world. Okay, I can accept you as a person who believes that is a good thing and an eventual thing, so long as you're not harming, people to get it. There's trust. There is a difference there. Harming people to achieve your goals versus hoping to re-educate mankind. There's big, huge difference between that. Okay, big, huge difference between the two. But I still think the idealistic ones. I think you're wrong, because not just that, as I understand human nature, and I know a few of you say, isn't human nature, because they were talked about, for tens of thousands of years in sort of primitive man living communally. Yes, communally in a family group, that is a different thing when you have limited resources and you're trying to survive, and so you are a, caveman is maybe overly primitive statement, but you can definitely say that you have a communal, whether it's an extended family, and I mean aunts, uncles, cousins kind of thing, or whether it's a bigger tribe, but you're living to some degree communally, and you believe that, and I've had people say that they live communally, sort of communistically. Well, I also know, and I don't know how much even Americans know, the American Indians did not live communally, and some of them were very sort of this primitive, they were all, before Columbus shows up, they were all in the Stone Age. They didn't have metal. I'm trying to think if anybody even had copper, maybe some of that stuff. But they were definitely not in the Iron Age, and a lot of the Plains Indians and other groups definitely were doing no copper. But, and I can look at, after, my knowledge of it mostly is after the Europeans show up, and the Plains Indians really sort of get going as a very successful functioning. We can talk about how the white man destroys the Indian way of life. Yeah, but also the white man created some of the Indian way of life. The Plains Indians migrated with the buffalo, and I don't know what they did before horses showed up, because horses are brought from Europe. There are no horses. There is no Indians riding anywhere, any animals basically. I guess there is some transport with some llamas, but most of the transport is human based, and even in the empires of South America and Central America, that was mostly human based work. They didn't have oxen or other animal power to do things even at all. But the Plains Indians, who really follow the buffalo, and you can look at some of the stuff, is a horse-based culture. So that really only develops once the horses get there. And I guess you can sneak up on buffalo and try to stab them with a spear. But unless you're getting close, you're not going to harm buffalo much with a or the American bison. It's different than a buffalo, but the bison very much with a bow. And I know some of you will say, no, you're wrong, and the Indians rode horses up next to them and shot arrows into them. Yes, they did that. That's at very close range. I'm talking, most of the American Indian bows weren't like the English longbow or some of the real powerful bows. And not that the buffalo wouldn't die, but he can move 100 miles. I don't know. He can move many miles before he dies, and very quickly. If you just, because he may die of an infection as opposed to blood loss, and it depends on where you hit the buffalo. It's different than shooting a deer with an arrow. And even if you want to go talk about shooting a moose, moose are big, but their muscles aren't very dense. And I know this from hunting with rifles. You don't need a powerful rifle to take down a huge moose, where you need a powerful rifle to take down a buffalo. Sort of a density question with the muscles and other things. So I would think you gotta get really close to it, sort of point blank range, and target where your arrows are going into vital organs, or you've got to stab them with a spear, best done from horseback, but maybe you could sneak up on them and stab them. But the whole Plains Indians, and remember the Plains Indians use buffalo for their teepees, because you can't have, because I know many people think of Indians and teepees. That's just the buffalo hunters, people, and that's just these people, not all the Indians here. They lived in other forms of habitation. The sort of Southwest Indians that weren't, the Pueblo dwellings, they didn't live in teepees. The Californian and other, there weren't any appreciable size of buffalo, if any buffalo out here. They didn't live in teepees because they didn't have that big of animal hides skewered to make that. They lived in other forms of sometimes very primitive wood and, bark type covered stuff. So the whole Plains Indians, I think to one degree or another, again, not that there weren't Indians in the plains and not that they didn't kill buffalo, but to be able to follow the buffalo north and south as it migrates, the bison, the buffalo, you need horses. So that has to be to do it properly and effectively, and again, to do it to support a large population, not just, hey, there's Mr. Buffalo Hunter over there and he kills 3 buffalo a year or something like that. I'm talking about being able to feed a population that can grow and be healthy. You need the horse for the Plains Indians to exist. You need the horse to do that in the way that we understand them. So, but even within that, I know that there most assuredly was private property ideas, including horse ownership. Individuals, often you paid a dowry for like your wife to, you give the father of your bride some horses and other things of value. I know that although they may have not had individual land ownership, and I say may, they sort of understood to some degree that some of the stuff that the initial settlers that came in and gave gifts, they were sort of giving gifts, giving permission to live there. They may have not had the sort of individual European concept of land ownership, but they definitely had tribal areas that were warred over. Who gets to live in what tribe, what areas to use the resources off of. And I do know at least a bit later than that, there was definitely the idea of not, again, land private property, but ownership of things, of value that were of the individual now, as opposed to communally owned. So private property and success in getting more than others is well documented there in a fairly primitive society. Now, I don't know enough about, say, the Amazonian Indians, whether they had a sense of private property or whether they lived communally. Everything is shared amongst the community that they live. But again, that is a small community, and that we can all know everybody's name in the community, and by face and name and their social and family history. That is entirely different than even Belgium or the Netherlands or Denmark communities. So I think communism is unnatural and bad. So not even idealistic. Yeah, I know, another one of my rants, but we're keeping it relatively short. Okay. Now, before this goes away, before anything possibly, so we're going to go through these. Liebstandarte SS Adolf Hitler expands, so we're going to lose that. but we're going to gain another one, and we're going to do Belgrade Falls here in a minute, but the 4th Gebirgsjäger Division, yes, okay, it's going into the queue. Upgrade the 2nd. These are like the ones that I definitely, you know, if they were taking Greece or wherever, I didn't want them to disappear. On me, and some will be put back onto the map. I think we'll see here. Some will be going back to the queue. The 1st Lich Division to the 6th Panzer Division. Good. Some of these I think may be pure create. Oh, but it's upgrading. You see the 2nd Motorized Infantry that we may have been using. Now's the time for it. I'm sure I'll have units left on the board or whatever to get ready to go down help the Greeks in the Mediterranean, or not the Greeks, the Italians in the Mediterranean. Again, some of these are pure forming, that's good. And I was anticipating both the upgrades from other types to Panzer and just upgrades to the Panzer, you know, from light tank battalions to more medium tank battalions. Is why I haven't been building lots of Panzer divisions. So you see there we use basically this infantry division to go into more motorized. Good. I like the graphics. They're well done. And upgrade the 36. Okay, so okay, production. Let's come down here on the bottom. Whoa, see all that stuff. And so let's move all this up to the top, and some of that is massively big. 50 ICs. Wow. Don't know if we're going to get to some of the stuff that I had down here for some considerable time. As you can see, some stuff that functionally never got even started building, but we'll make good, and I'll leave them in the queue here because they're reasonably priced. They'll be helping to fight in the swamps in the Soviet Union and places like that when we get there. Some of the stuff that was, getting fairly well done. Now, what we're going to do here is move the stuff that is more completed to the top, because we might as well get that out of the production queue. Oh, what else I want, just to make sure, I want to get these radars and these guys done, because they're sort of already been doing this thing. Yeah, let's some of these, 250. And again, I'm not saying that's a bad price to pay for some of these divisions, because I honestly haven't done the math. I hope whoever's done it well. But there will be a readjustment as things get out. So we want to do that. Now we have Belgrade Falls. Okay. So we own, currently at least, we own all of Greece, including down here. So, I decided to go through with this. So we're going to do Belgrade Falls, which is partition. I recoded this for myself at one time, and I didn't put it in before I started the series, and I almost sort of went in and did this again. Sort of recoded it so that there was a path through Yugoslavia, through this province here, which limited the amount of what Italy could have, so that I could have supplies flow through to Greece. But there is an event that I think will happen that will give us here, which I really don't think there's much of a port there. I sort of looked at the coast there. Maybe it'll even give us this. I don't know. It'll give us some sort of coastal port that I can send supplies through. And to the best of my understanding, the size of the port that you're exporting supplies through does not matter. Meaning you can have a rinky-dink level 1 port and move all the supplies in the world out through it as you want. That's my understanding. It could be wrong, and if somebody truly, not guesses, but truly knows through testing can prove me wrong, I would like to hear it, not a guess. But I do know the size of the port does very much affect how much supplies it can receive. Okay, so if you get one rinky-dink port here, I don't know, Kretch, I don't know what it is, but let's presume if it's just still a level 1, obviously even this will show up as a level 1, I do believe. Sevastopol, yeah, they just show up as level 1, whatever they are. But even if like Kretch is just a level 1, and that's the only port I have, and then I stick a huge massive army in there, it won't get enough supplies. It just won't. Because the size of the port affects how many supplies can be landed. Supplies and fuel, as well as basing size of fleets to properly be supplied through there. That is affected by the size of the port. So that does matter for receiving, but not for, and that was, I thought it affected the size for the export before, and that was one of my reasons for wanting to make sure I had places like Athens with, big ports to be able to send out supplies. But so long as I will get, and I do believe I will get, a Mediterranean port, I will be happy enough. So we can partition this or keep what is ours. Well, I'm going to actually here, I guess, well, I say this at the beginning of the episode. If I really get bad, I'll go back and redo it. So we're going to try the partition here. And so what I like I said, I created a middle option here that still sort of created the puppets, but okay, so we've annexed. So notice here we've gotten parts of this and this from Italy, but restore Croatia, so we're releasing Croatia. Okay, so they still have all of those. These units didn't disappear in taking that land. Good. And yeah, I had sort of made Croatia a rump state of like 6 provinces in here or some such thing. Is the way I coded it. I sort of kind of, and we'll see how this goes because I think they've added some more events, Black Ice / sub modders to create some of the revolts. One of the thoughts that I have here is, well, I don't know, maybe there's going to be enough permanent revolt risk for Croatia, because there should be a partisan battle here to hold it down. And create Serbia. Okay, let's go back to the flag. So now Italy does have, oh no, well, we have that. Well, I'm not displeased at having Trieste. The Mussolini would be. But is there something to, I thought there was another event that would give, maybe it's changed. Oh, there's already a partisan. Okay, well, see, there's a revolt there. Like I say, there's already a thing going on. Well, let's go this route. Croatia, fascist. It is an Axis member, allied with Germany as a puppet of Germany. Okay, so we have access to it, no active. Fuel is just a game mechanic and not a, just a lack of fuel thing, not some sort of, because sometimes when you have troops in provinces that they shouldn't, inside countries that they shouldn't be in, they will get the effect of not having fuel even though they have fuel or supplies. Don't know why that's not going back to Italy. I wouldn't mind it going to Italy. I'm going to move this down to here because there should be the Corinth Canal, but we may be getting an event that gives us the capturing of the Greek fleet that, again, I've experienced without having some sort of cushion there, and some of that we will change with our fighters. Moving down here. Get bombed out before they can get themselves properly equipped. Okay, you guys stop. We don't need you going. Well, you might want you going to. Yeah. Well, see, now this isn't a problem because I made sure none of the headquarters are disappearing, because I can still reattach that to somewhere else. Now let's take a look. And I want to do this for you, even though this may not be overly exciting gameplay, is to see what showed up and where on the map. Okay, so now we have a much better Leibstandarte. It's, like I said, the way some of the modders have coded things, it doesn't matter that, because I don't know that either of these two, having experience, particularly the transport, is going to do it. Even if we had earned more experience for Leibstandarte, just because, and it was an elite outfit. Not all the Waffen-SS were some miracle super troops. They weren't. Part of the reason some of the Waffen-SS did very well was because they got some of the units, and like we saw earlier with Totenkopf and Polizei, they were getting crap equipment early on. But later on, they were getting some of the best equipment, and lots of it. Oh, we lost some more tanks. We'll send them some more of the newest stuff. They were getting some of the cream of the crop, and where most, I don't know if you know this, but most German divisions stopped getting both replacement troops and replacement equipment at some point. And stop is maybe an overstatement, but most of the recruits and most of the equipment were going to new divisions. And I say that, and this is, I don't know, by 42 or some sort of date, not refitting after France or something like that, but after things start starting to go wrong, Hitler wants to see new divisions, send out more divisions, and he's putting a lot of pressure on the supply chain, whether it's Speer and the productions or where the equipment goes. The supply chain situation, as well as the army, is we got to form more divisions. So replacement, an artillery piece, replacement truck aren't being sent to divisions. Replacement men aren't being, and again, aren't is or is not is overstating it, but it is a trickle where the bulk of it is going to new fresh units. Now, fresh units do have the advantage of getting both officers and NCOs, people often maybe privates before, but are long experienced, and the only reason they haven't been as promoted yet is because their corporals and sergeants in their old divisions are even more experienced, and you don't need extra sergeants. So people are getting promotions, going to new units and whatever. So they do have a core of trained and experienced leadership within these new divisions. They're not just like you're forming American divisions in 1940 before they go to war. Outside of the officers from World War I, basically, you're getting all your new officers, your new lieutenants, they all have never seen combat. And including in 1941, 1941 to even early 1942, most of them have never seen combat. So your captains, because most of your captains aren't World War I veterans, so they've never seen combat. They've gone through training schools. They've had some experience at leading men through training. You can remember the David Schwimmer character in Band of Brothers, who was just a lousy officer at multiple levels. Too authoritarian, wasn't willing to learn mistakes, and But so you get people like that that would be weeded out, or wouldn't have gotten into that position if they, started out as a lieutenant and saw that, oh, this guy sort of sucks in combat. Well, we're going to send him back into, an administrative job. And he may be a great administrative job back in, because he does later show up in the series as some sort of semi-administrator type. But in the front, he may be an excellent guy for running a, something, because he may be intelligent and he may know some of the stuff and learn from his mistakes to some degree, but running stuff back here in the U.S., but you never want him really leading good troops in combat, and he may be worse than really bad officers, but you don't know that. So that's, the Green Army versus taking a veteran army and moving the cadre over from veteran units elements into green units is better than the other things. But so all of the new units is because they're not doing the reinforcements as needed. They're going at, say, oh, we're going to have I don't know, maybe 10, maybe this is after 42, maybe 10 or 20 ICs when you need 60 kind of thing. There was a trickle. Stuff was getting out to replace things, but nowhere near the loss rates, and they were expanding it. So you get a division, after a while, it's at maybe 2/3 of the strength. And it's still a very functional unit, and still very good, but it's no longer what it used to be. The Waffen-SS were, because part of the reason is because they have that agreement with the army to limit the size of men of it. So replacement men, sure. Men that expand the size of the Waffen-SS from Germany, because they can do sort of unlimited recruiting of foreigners. So the number of Germans at any one time in the Waffen-SS is limited, so they get replacement men, get replacement equipment. That's part of the reason why they are elite formation. Part of it is an ideological thing. They just, sort of like some of the elite Soviets, they just truly believed in their ideology, so they were willing to fight harder and more. Not that they're any better. And there was also the selection is get rid of the not so good, qualified, let them go back and stay in the army, and keep just the better. So there is a reason, and Liebstandart, Das Reich, and a few others are elite units, so they get all these extra stars. And so the coders of these divisions are these things, do know this, and are making some good decisions. Some of them are arbitrary, I do believe. Okay, so I guess it's only this we got before and moved it there, and it's still needing to reinforce, re-equip. So that was the only one that wasn't in the production queue so far. Now we're going to have to get ready. Well, we're going to get ready to go see what we can do about this Panzer Corps. Rommel will get a promotion here. Right now he's just leading this division, but he will get a promotion. I wanted him in the 7th, but the 7th didn't get formed until after the fall of France, and it was there for the fall of France. Get him more experience, get him stuff, so. Trying to get people moved down to somewhere useful. Don't think we're going to move the Panzer group down to Africa, but they got the extended range. Once we get down here now, another thing. I want to do this. And we're going to get our ships down to try to race in and put in. Well, no. 7th Flieger Division. Yes. Not going to be a paradrop because currently we own it, and there has not been an event that we're going to land. But I want to see about going after some of my other traditional attacks. traditional for me in the Mediterranean because they make sense. And the Flieger division will be a good thing to occupy Crete very rapidly. So, okay, we're winning there. The other thing is we've got radar here, which is giving us a little bit better look into and out and around. Well, now let's let a little bit of time go by. I want to get some of those divisions, see what's... Okay, Serbia, 5 units of interceptors. Okay. Part of what I'm looking for is, do I want Serbia to waste its production time on it? And some interceptors down here, because they're never going to be, you know, panzer divisions bursting across Russia for me. But I have noticed some of the allies, like maybe here, you see the Slovenian fighters that have obviously engaged somebody. They got some Slovenian bombers that I don't know if have done any good, but they're at least out here sort of trying to do things, even though Slovenia as an army is just sitting here. You know, so there are, I do believe, maybe events. They've done some really great stuff in Hearts of Iron 4 Black Ice, for like Slovenian and other voluntary corps as well. I know there are some stuff for here, but it's getting good. So, but some fighters, sure, you can have those. I mean, if they wanted a bunch of strategic bombers, I probably would have said no because it cost too much. I don't think they'd ever build them. Okay, yes, you can have energy there, Spain. Okay, you come down to there. You just come in there anyways. See which one's going to take those guys out. Okay, we're now, and this is one of the reasons to do this, is a regional puppet master. We have enough puppets. I think it's just 3 so far, because you get more Slovenia, Slovakia, and Serbia. I guess they're all S's right now. So manpower, money, and resources. That's good. Active sonar, great. That will help us, obviously. Convoy efficiency and that kind of thing. And so what we're going to do here is move to active sonar for ships, which will actually give them to, this just gives them to the convoy things, but this we want to our mostly destroyers and light cruisers, and some more convoy escorts will get a real good bonus and something worth to push ahead on. We'll wait a bit before we get to that. For submarines, useful, but both the clock and how useful they are is a little bit off for us. Okay, division HQs have advanced. I want to check and there to see. Okay, we're just at a 1940 technology, so we will continue it. So this is obviously, this goes to 6 hours now, so this should be what, 5 hours. So it's up one, or reduced 1 hour per level, and that's great. Now I also want to check, it has currently made these. At some point I'm going to go over to manual control just because, you know, I want to control it. Oh, and here. Bit more. Get through some of these. You can see here we are no longer, we're not even getting all of these new units, so all that gets delayed. And so this is one thing that I do know, that again, the modders are doing great and excellent work in that they are making you pay for this stuff. You're not, you know, I'm getting cool units and I'm sort of anticipating getting them via events and whatnot, but I know that they're going to cost me. It's not like, oh, magical superpower Germany, you know. No, it's, you get cool units, and there may be, and if you do the math, and I don't know versus the different costs, I may be getting a deal on some of these, you know, meaning cheaper than if I was building them myself. But, or upgrading, you know, going through the upgrade process myself. Yeah, it may be better, but things aren't always zero-sum games in reality, and they're trying. The negotiations between Molotov and Hitler in Berlin. The USSR requires influence in Finland, Turkey, and military bases in the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles. This would very likely lead to Soviet expansion and occupation of these countries and endanger their right. This event comes from George 1941, who put me onto this, and I did not know that uh, that the Soviets were post-Molotov Pact, post, this is, at this time, the invasion of Yugoslavia doesn't happen until 41, so this is sort of in the mostly peacetime, um, in between the, defeating France and getting ready to go to Soviet Union. There's still a lot of both negotiations going on between the Soviets and the Nazis, Hitler and Stalin, however you want to say that, but also conflict. The Soviet Union and Stalin got an agreement that gave them a lot of Poland, gave them the Baltic states, and with the switch of giving a bit, this sort of intermediate territory for Poland to get Lithuania, and also allowed them to get into this part of Romania, that they want more now. So they're going to push for more. This isn't, and this is as a few of you pointed that, yes, I totally agree that Stalin is a time bomb, that eventually there's going to be the conflict, historically, I'm not talking in this game, but historically between Stalin and Hitler. It was going to happen. I just some of you disagree whether 1941 was the best year to start the invasion of the Soviet Union, considering the other conditions in the world at the time. So there's definitely this sort of conflict and pushing going on. I guess I could code in give it to Stalin, but basically what that's going to mean, in my opinion, is bases in the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles. Turkey ain't going to give that up. Earlier in, like, around 1936 it is, as we've seen earlier in this series, Turkey's allowed to sort of militarize finally again the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles, to be able to put up defensive works to stop shipping and that kind of thing, and control its waterways. It is sort of international waterways, it is sort of Turkish waterways, it's, and obviously you can easily, with both of these, just start mining them, just dropping sea mines, and keep doing it. Yep, if you have a big enough fleet, you can come through and sweep them and bash them and get through, but short of that, it's impractical to get through these things without controlling the lands. And so if Hitler is going to get bases here, Turkey ain't going to be happy. So that's going to mean a war with Turkey. And if we're not going to support Turkey, that means this is going to go to the Soviets. And basically, to give, after the Winter War, well, yeah, it's going to mean Hitler allows Stalin to do a second major push into Finland without its support. And is a player in his right mind going to allow all this to go to Stalin? And yeah, probably not going to mean any real serious invasion other than just sort of localized stuff up here by the Soviets, but it shuts off this whole northern flank possibility. Are you really going to allow Stalin into here? And if I coded it, it'd be a way that you wouldn't be able to decide to jump in and help Turkey. Turkey just fights it out on its own, keeps the Allies out of it. So you would now be starting with the Soviets here. I don't think any of you really as a player would make that option. So I just didn't bother coding it in as an option. So that's sort of the situation there. Just sometimes why code in something that no sane person would do. So you've got okay, we even stopped one there because you well no that other never mind, maybe that would have been better than sending these guys that way. I don't know. Didn't think of sending them down there. Interception tactics have advanced. Good. We'll just stop that since we're in a negative situation here. And ground fighter control crew. Fighter crew. Ground crew. We'll stop that. Yes, SS medium artillery. We'll take that. We're going to take this opportunity to end this episode here. I want to thank you all for watching. I want to thank you for liking the videos. I really do appreciate that. And again, post questions, suggestions, ideas, comments, corrections if I'm getting stuff wrong. On the recent Blitzkrieg 3 episode, someone who lives up in nearby Norway added some more historical corrections there, because as he agreed with me that much of the scenario presented at the sort of video game had nothing to do with the sort of Operation Archery taking out the fish oil reserves. So you want to do that with me, that's fine, absolutely. See you next time for more Hearts of